So last night's Xfinity Series race was a hard-fought battle early on between Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch. However, once we hit 50 to go, this race changed big time. A lot of pit road mishaps during the cycle of green flag pit stops. Something rare you see. A lot of drivers with mishaps, especially all the good cars with problems. Kyle Busch, he sped. Brandon Jones, he sped. Chase Briscoe sped. Daniel Hemrick, uncontrolled tire. Ross Chastain slid through his pit stall. A lot of it, though, had to do with the fact that these drivers had no practice before getting into the green. And that, in the words of Clint Bowyer, all hell broke loose. Timmy Hill blew an engine and left oil on the track, the slippery surface. Put Briscoe and Chastain in the wall with damage and took them out. I do want to talk about pit road penalties in a little bit. Chastain, though, luckily on the good side, recovered to finish in the 4th position. But then we had a restart with Austin Cindric in the catbird seat, pulled away from Justin Haley with 38 laps to go. Then we had a yellow. Cindric was loving the clean air, but the yellow stacked the field up, and it brought Kyle Busch back into the conversation. If we don't have that yellow for Timmy Hill blowing up, Kyle Busch is probably out of a win. Mixed strategy, though, brought all the Gibbs cars onto pit road. Kyle Busch was the first driver with 4 tires. Now we were wondering, would it be the same as Cup where clean air was the advantage, or would it be tires in the Xfinity Series? Well, with 26 to go, the answer was at first track position, but before an instant yellow, Kyle picked up 2 spots to 4th position. Caution pretty much kept breeding caution. We had yellows throughout the final laps of the race on the restarts. And once we got to that final restart, after the overtime, after that sent us into an overtime after that big wreck with Harrison Burton, Brandon Jones, Justin Haley, Tommy Joe Martins, who took the worst ahead of them all, and he was going for a top 10 finish, sent us into overtime. Surprisingly there, Cindric had the better restart and led at the white flag, but going down the backstretch, Kyle did everything he needed to do to get that win. With the draft, slingshotted to the inside, side drafted off of Cindric. Cindric said he drove it wide open in 3 and 4, hoping he could get the W, but it wouldn't pay off. Kyle Busch gets win number 97 in the Xfinity Series. Cindric falls back to 3rd. Daniel Hemrick, if he has 2 more laps, I think Hemrick gets that win because he actually had fresher tires than Kyle Busch. So I would not be surprised if we saw Daniel Hemrick challenge Kyle Busch for that win if we did not have an overtime, if we had like 3 or 4 laps to go or something like that. But that was a fun finish to the end. Reminded me a little bit of the 2005 Coca-Cola 600 where yellows breeded yellows. Some crazy stuff, though, I gotta say the least. But some takeaways from today. First off, let's talk about the early battle between Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain. It was an amazing battle. Cup versus Xfinity regulars. And then Chastain, this was a big test for Chastain pretty much. He's obviously won in the Xfinity Series before, but that was when you pretty much saw the entire field full of Xfinity Series regulars. You didn't see anyone like Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick in those races as well. So luckily, good to see Ross have a chance. But Kyle Busch, though, he was hungry. He got so close to being Chase Briscoe last week at Darlington, even though everyone wanted Briscoe to win. Kyle was hungry. He wanted to get a win, and luckily he got it, though. But in my opinion, Kyle Busch had the better long-run car. He won stages 1 and 2. Ross Chastain had the better car on a restart. And when we had lap traffic getting tighter and tighter, the battle was getting intense. But once again, the long run, Kyle Busch pulled away. Charlotte Motor Speedway, in my opinion, pretty much really a long-run track. Another takeaway as well, the traction compound. Sunday night 600, the Tire Dragon didn't really come in until the second half of the race. But in the Xfinity race, we saw at the start a one-groove race, but after an early first caution, the high line started coming in. I think you really need the track to be cooler and at night for the compound to work into play. It never really worked early in the 600 before the red flag came out for the rain. I think as well the Xfinity Series was using a different tire compound than the Cup Series was, and whatever that tire was that Goodyear had brought for the Xfinity Series, it worked. Another takeaway as well, Kaulig Racing. In my opinion, this was their best race at a 1.5 mile track. While it was a random draw in qualifying where Chastain and Haley did have a front row lockout, Ross was more of the dominant car for the Kaulig squad, led a bunch of the race, according to the race rundown, led 6 times for 68 laps, had a good car the entire day, he led the most amongst the Xfinity Series regulars. Before this, their only best performances came on super speedways and road courses where they had won before as well. Ross obviously winning at Daytona in July of 2019. And then AJ Allmendinger won at the Roval, and I think he won Mid-Ohio. No, not Mid-Ohio. He won the Roval in 2019 in a good race there as well. Getting back to the pit road penalties, we had a lot of it. Culmination of no practice time, and if I recall correctly, I don't think I saw the drivers come down to pit road to set their gauge speed like we had seen from the Cup Series last week at Darlington. Allgaier got a bunch of penalties, mostly probably because of his gauges. He had a lot of crew members over the wall to fix it. Joe Graf Jr. as well had multiple penalties. If we take a look at the infraction sheet here, that was like a full page pretty much of penalties. So a lot of stuff happening. I'm trying to, if I look here on who got the most penalties, that's a good question. I think Joe Graf Jr. got the most penalties, but I'm not too sure on. Next up, it's Kyle's 97th Xfinity Series win. He said before that he would retire from the Xfinity Series when he hits 100. Is it going to happen? Honestly, I don't think so. This man is needed for the feeder league because to be the best, you got to beat the best. Pretty much like a common saying. You hear it in the Titan games as well. And Kyle Busch no doubt represents the best in the Cup Series. 2-time and defending champion. Most wins in all 3 series combined. He is needed, and drivers that have beat him before in the Xfinity Series have shown that they can be a part of the best. Eric Jones, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson. He is the man that represents the Xfinity Series. It used to be called the Busch Series, and he's got Busch in his last name for some reason. Okay, moving on. Final thoughts, though, before we head to the vital statistics. I'm a huge fan of the Xfinity Series package. More horsepower, lower downforce. With the fresher tires as well, it is a man's best friend, unlike the clean air we saw in Sunday night's Coca-Cola 600. So now we go to the vital statistics. Let's give you a top 10. Kyle Busch won, pretty much swept all 3 stages, led 8 times for 94 laps. Daniel Hemrick finished second, highest of the Xfinity regulars to get points. Austin Cindric third, Ross Chastain fourth, Justin Allgaier fifth. How about Brett Moffitt in the 0-2 for Our Motorsports? That small team, they just debuted this season in the Xfinity Series. They got their first top 10 with Moffitt behind the wheel. That's great to see. We're watching that team closely at Bristol this coming weekend because Patrick Emmerling from Orchard Park will be behind the wheel. Michael Annett finished 7th. Brandon Brown, his first top 10 at a track that's not named Daytona or Talladega, so that's great to see. Harrison Burton 9th, and Myatt Snyder, after the hard shot he took into the outside wall. That was the last caution, I think, before we got to the final yellow, finished in 10th position. Race lasted 2 hours, 43 minutes, and 30 seconds for an average speed of 111.743 miles an hour. Margin of victory was 0.178 seconds. 11 yellows for 53 laps and 20 lead changes among 5 drivers. As we look at the playoff picture now in the Xfinity Series, Chase Briscoe has an 8-point lead in the standings over Austin Cindric. If you look as well... Okay. As we look at the Xfinity Series playoff picture in the point standings, first off, Chase Briscoe has an 8-point lead over Austin Cindric. The drivers that have won this season that are Xfinity regulars before Kyle Busch did was Chase Briscoe. He's got 2. Then we have Harrison Burton, Noah Gragson, and Brandon Jones. So then you look at the playoff picture, who's got the final spot at the moment. Right now, there's a big gap between 11th and 12th, which is about 16 points for right now. But right now, Brandon Brown has the final spot at the moment. He has a 9-point lead in that final playoff picture over Daniel Hemrick. But Hemrick, I don't think, would be eligible because he is not racing full-time in the Xfinity Series. He's racing on a part-time basis, and NASCAR has not granted him a waiver for the playoffs, so I don't think Hemrick would be in that catbird seat right now. So then you got to look at the next man down. That would be Alex Labbe, and he is currently, if I'm doing my math correctly, about 16 points behind Brandon Brown at the moment. So first victory for Kyle Busch this season, third top 10 finish in the Xfinity Series this year. It's his 9th victory in 27 Xfinity races at Charlotte. He has won 33% of the races at Charlotte that he has competed in. 18 combined wins in the top 3 series that NASCAR has. Daniel Hemrick with his third top 10 finish in 5 races and his third top 10 finish in 2020. It's his 6th runner-up finish of his career. That is the most anyone, I believe, anyone has had to finish second before getting their first ever Xfinity Series win. So it's still close before we'll see that backflip, though. I have a feeling it could come either this year or next year. Austin Cindric, that's his 2nd top 10 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and almost winning. That would have been his first ever oval win in a top 3 NASCAR series. Harrison Burton, the highest finishing rookie in 9th tonight. So we got the Truck Series tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That should be a good one. Key storylines here. The Bounty is back. Kevin Harvick still has his 50K of the Bounty up for grabs. I don't know about Marcus Lemonis. I think his 50K is still up for grab. But with Harvick, he's going to give 50K to whichever Cup driver beats Kyle Busch. That 50K will go to a charity related to COVID-19 relief of the driver's choice. We don't know yet if Chris Larson, the owner of Halmar Friesen Racing, will be putting his 50K still on the line, or if he will be also donating the 50K to COVID-19 relief of a driver's choice. But it should be a fun night to watch at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. First truck race ever since the pandemic began. Should be a fun night of racing. I'll be on Twitter providing live updates as well as Discord. Till then, I'm Marty. I'll see you guys in the next video, which will probably be tomorrow. And until then, peace out.